Welcome to the dungeon. The dungeon. The rack. The Iron Maiden. When we think of the Middle Ages, our minds immediately go to the torture chamber. We imagine a time of sadistic madness where cackling executioners spent their days inventing new ways to inflict pain for absolutely no reason other than pure evil. But what if I told you that most of what you know about medieval torture is fake? What if I told you that the most famous torture device in history never actually existed in the Middle Ages, and that the brutal punishments we did have were not just about cruelty, but about a twisted kind of logic? It wasn't a lawless bloodbath. It was a strict, bureaucratic, and deeply religious system where pain was the currency of justice. Welcome to Cobblestone Secrets. Today, we are descending into the dark history of crime and punishment. We will separate the Victorian myths from the medieval reality. Warning, it's going to get bloody. The biggest lie, the Iron Maiden. Let's start with the elephant in the room, or rather, the spiked box in the room. The Iron Maiden. You know it, you fear it. A coffin-sized cabinet with spikes on the inside. You put the victim in, close the door, and the spikes pierce their eyes and body, but, crucially, miss the vital organs, so they die slowly. It is the ultimate symbol of medieval barbarism. It is also a complete fabrication. There is zero evidence, none, nil, zilch, that the Iron Maiden was used in the Middle Ages. No medieval writer mentions it, no medieval illustration depicts it. So where did it come from? It was invented in the 19th century, the 1800s, by museum curators who wanted to attract more tourists. They took some old bits of metal, cobbled them together, and said, "Look how scary the past was." It was essentially a Victorian theme park attraction. So, if the Iron Maiden is fake, does that mean medieval torture was a myth? Oh, certainly not. The reality was much simpler and much more effective. They didn't need complicated machines to break you. They just needed gravity and rope. The logic of pain. Trial by ordeal. To understand medieval punishment, you have to understand their mindset. They didn't have CSI, DNA testing, or CCTV cameras. So, how do you solve a crime when there are no witnesses? You ask God. This was called trial by ordeal. It wasn't torture for torture's sake. It was a legal proceeding. Let's say you are accused of theft. You deny it. The court orders the ordeal of fire. You must carry a red-hot iron bar for 9 feet. Your hand is then bandaged. 3 days later, the priest checks the wound. If it is healing cleanly, God has performed a miracle. You are innocent. If it is festering and infected, you are guilty. Or perhaps the ordeal of water. You are tied up and thrown into holy water. The logic, water is pure. If you are a sinner, the water will reject you and you will float. If you are innocent, the water will accept you and you will sink. Yes, you heard that right. Floating equals guilty, sinking equals innocent. And hopefully they pull you out before you drown, though that was optional. It sounds insane to us, but to them, it was perfect logic. They truly believed God would not let an innocent person suffer. It was a judicial system based entirely on divine intervention. The theater of shame, stocks and pillory. Now, let's look at the most common punishments. Most crimes didn't result in death. Labor was scarce. Killing workers was bad economics. Instead, the Middle Ages weaponized shame. Enter the pillory and the stocks. These weren't just about being uncomfortable, they were a public theater. The criminal was put on display in the market square at peak hour. The punishment wasn't the wood holding your wrists, it was the crowd. You could be pelted with rotten food, mud, or dead animals. But worse, you lost your reputation. In a close-knit medieval community, losing your honor was a social death sentence. For women accused of gossiping or nagging their husbands, yes, that was a crime. There was the scold's bridle, a metal cage for the head with a spiked plate that went into the mouth to hold down the tongue. It was humiliating, painful, and designed to silence. It effectively said, you speak too much, so now you cannot speak at all. The ultimate crime, treason. But what if you did something truly terrible? What if you tried to kill the king? That is high treason, and for that, simple death was not enough. You needed to be unmade. This brings us to the most brutal execution method in British history: hanged, drawn, and quartered. Step 1. Hanged. You are strung up by the neck, but cut down before you die. You wake up on the ground, gasping for air. Step 2. Drawn. While you are still conscious, the executioner cuts open your stomach and pulls out your entrails. Tradition held that these were burned in front of your still open eyes. Step 3. Quartered. Your body is chopped or pulled by horses into 4 pieces. Your head goes on a spike on London Bridge. Your legs go to York, your arms to Bristol. You are literally scattered to the winds. This wasn't just execution, it was obliteration. It was a message from the state: do not cross us. The Church and the Inquisition. We cannot talk about torture without mentioning the Church, the Inquisition. While the state punished criminals, the Church hunted heretics, people who believed the wrong things. And because heresy was a crime of the soul, they needed a confession to save you. Their favorite tool, the rack. Simple physics. You tie the victim's wrists to one end and ankles to the other. Then you turn the handle. The body stretches. First the ligaments tear. Then the shoulders pop out of their sockets. Finally, the hips dislocate. It was clean, no blood, but the pain was absolute. Or the strappado. Hands tied behind the back, hoisted up by a rope and dropped halfway. The sudden stop would snap both shoulders instantly. The inquisitors carefully recorded every word screamed during these sessions. They believed that pain broke down the lies of the devil, allowing the truth to spill out. Class warfare, axe versus rope. Even in death, the Middle Ages were obsessed with class. How you died depended on how much money you had. If you were a commoner, you were hanged. It was slow, undignified, and cheap. You strangled to death at the end of a rope while the crowd laughed. But if you were a noble, you got the axe or the sword. Beheading was considered an honorable death. It was quick, usually. You got to give a speech. You were the star of the show. But it didn't always go to plan. History is full of botched beheadings where the executioner was drunk or the axe was blunt. It took 3 blows to kill Mary, Queen of Scots. The Countess of Salisbury famously ran around the scaffold, refusing to put her head down, and the executioner had to chase her, hacking away. Not exactly dignified. The Pear of Anguish, another myth. Before we finish, let's debunk one more famous device, the Pear of Anguish. Museums claim this metal pear was inserted into various orifices and expanded to tear them apart. It is a staple of horror stories. But again, most historians now believe these were actually mouth gags or expanders for shoes or gloves, modified later to look scary. The mechanical complexity required to make a torture pear in the 13th century would have been astronomical. Like the Iron Maiden, it is likely a later invention to make the Dark Ages look darker. A deep, gritty, and resonant British male voice. The tone is serious, grave, and atmospheric, like a narrator in a dark dungeon documentary. He speaks slowly with dramatic pauses. There is a hint of cynical wit when debunking myths, but pure seriousness when describing torture methods. Authoritative and compelling. Fear and control. So what is the truth about medieval torture? It wasn't a Monty Python sketch, but it also wasn't a horror movie dungeon filled with complex machines like the Iron Maiden. The truth is colder. Medieval punishment was public, religious, and symbolic. They didn't have a police force to catch every criminal, so they made the punishment so horrific, so visible, and so terrifying that no one would dare commit the crime. It was a system of terror designed to keep order in a violent world. Pain wasn't the goal, control was. Thank you for stepping into the darkness with us on Cobblestone Secrets. If you enjoyed this deep dive and have a strong stomach, why not click here to watch our video on the horrors of medieval hygiene? It turns out the smell was just as deadly as the rack. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and confess your sins in the comments below. See you next time.